those are the trials of a little business, and this is big business or capitalism, and the answer we're going to give to the problem is that capitalism does not exist now. But first we begin, because this is always an educational program, with basic principles. Namely, why is there such a thing as private property? Why do we want to own? Why do we want to have things? There are two basic reasons. The first reason we desire to own is because of the poverty of our being. We are a mixture of being and non-being. Existence and non-existence. We all come to an end, therefore we're not perfect existence. Only God has perfect existence. Now, because we are imperfect beings, we attempt to fill up this impoverishment of our being by having. We're very much like empty buckets. And the having is something that adds, as it were, to our being. That, incidentally, is why we're very apt to fall into the belief that simply because we have something, that therefore we are something. That also accounts for the fact that we very often consider people to be of great importance when only they're very wealthy. They just have an abundance of goods. You know, God has nothing. In that sense, God is absolute poverty. God is, in that sense, He is absolute riches. Well, that's the first reason for wanting things. And the second reason is related to freedom. There are two kinds of freedom. One is internal freedom and the other is external. The external freedom is liberty. We are free on the inside because we have a soul. Each and every one of us is a source of responsibility. I am my own. I can call myself my own. Now, is it not fitting that we should have external liberty as well? And what is the best sign of external liberty? Something on the outside over which we have control, just as we have control of ourselves on the inside. For example, the artist wants to own his canvas. The sculptor wants to own his marble. The farmer wants to own his land. Thus, property is the economic guarantee of human liberty. It's a protection for freedom of the soul. Just suppose you wanted to establish a regime, a political system in which nobody would be free. What would you do? What would you have to do? First of all, you'd have to take away any private property, because that would give a man a certain amount of independence as regards his work. And secondly, you would have to destroy his religion so that he would no longer believe that he was free on the inside. That's communism. Communism is founded upon the denial of inner and outer freedom. The denial of God and the denial of private property. The two go together. Well, that's chapter 1. Here's another notion concerning property, and an idea that is very seldom thought of. All property has two aspects or two sides. We must distinguish between the right to property and the use of property. The right to property is personal or individual. The use of property is social. Now let us explain. The right to property is personal. For example, you own your own fishing tackle. You own an automobile. Or you may even own a wine cellar. You can show title, deed, possession. Now, is your right to any property unlimited? May you use it as you please? You may have a right to a gun. May you shoot your mother-in-law? Shoot game out of season? You have an automobile? May you drive it in your neighbor's front lawn or into his front room? You have a wine cellar? May you set up a saloon next to a school and sell it to minors? You see, wealth or property is socially conditioned. It is not absolutely unlimited. Where do economic errors come from? And incidentally, in treatises on economics, this is something you hardly ever see. The only treatise in economics that I know of that really touches fundamentals is Bernard Dempsey's treatise on economics. And that makes a distinction of this kind. Now, economics begins to go wrong. An economist, you know, is one who reads a menu from the right to the left. They say he's a man who has a Phi Beta Kappa key on his chain but doesn't have a watch. Well, economists begin to go wrong when they will take one or the other of these to the exclusion of the other. What is capitalism? Capitalism is the emphasis upon the individual right without social use. Now, the capitalism of which we're speaking is the capitalism of the 18th and 19th century. Very simply, that capitalism was based upon the proposition that there could be an aggrandizement of wealth. All profits belonged to the owner, and the owner would say, I own this property. I can do with it what I please. I want no Bible. I want no church. I want no state. I want no one telling me what I am to do with what I own. It is absolute and irrevocable. When, therefore, a working man came before the capitalist with a cap in his hand and would say to the capitalist, I want to organize with other men in order that I may get an increase of wages. The capitalist would say, can't you see that if you do this, you're destroying freedom of contract? If you join with other workers, you're no longer personally free. Now as you stand before me, you're a free man. The fallacy of that kind of capitalism was this poor worker was not free to bargain with a man who had all the wealth, and the worker had nothing. That's why the worker had to balance his absence of wealth by an balance of power, namely by organization. Then the capitalist would also tell the worker in those days, why, I knew someone who started driving spikes in the railroad. Now he's president of the railroad. You just work hard. Someday maybe you will be the head of this corporation. Well, it's all very nice indeed for the 1,000th donkey to be given a carrot, but not after 999 die of starvation. Well, that was the old capitalism. Their works follow them. So if you'd like to take something with you, send it to me, I'll give it to the poor of the world, and you will have it when you go before the Lord. Thank you. Bye now, and God love you.